and show the mayor one way that she can raise money, or not even raise money, the one way that she already has the money to pay for the things that we are asking for as teachers, as counselors, as nurses, as CPS employees to fund the schools that our students deserve. So this story, we wrote it kind of based on the Dr. Seuss book, Are You My Mother? And in this book, Jayla, a CPS student, I forgot, it's not a Dr. Seuss book. P.D. Eastman. After the book, Are You My Mother? And in this book, Jayla, a CPS student, goes looking for the mayor of her city after she hears about the fantastic things her cousin has in his suburban school that she doesn't have in her Chicago public school. So I want you to listen as we read. Okay, this is Are You My Mayor? And this was written and illustrated by CPS teachers and CPS alumni. Jayla is a student in Chicago Public Schools. Oh, you guys have the unabridged version? I'm reading the abridged version, so you cannot follow me. Just so you know. Jayla is a student in Chicago Public Schools. One weekend, she and her family drove out to visit her mother's sister in the suburbs. When they arrived in the suburbs, Jayla jumped out of the car and ran to hug her cousin Jadon. Jayla loved spending time with Jadon. And Jadon would tell Jayla strange and wonderful stories about what it was like to live in the suburbs. It was truly a different world. Jadon began to tell Jayla a story about something that had happened as the school librarian helped him do research for a project in the library. Jayla had never heard of a librarian or a library before. When Jadon explained to her what these things were, she was quite surprised and wondered why she didn't have a librarian or a library in her own school. Jadon continued his story, telling Jayla that he became so excited in the library that while jumping with joy, he had accidentally hit and hurt his hand on the bookshelf and had to visit the school nurse. Jayla told Jadon he was lucky to have hurt his hand on a day when the school nurse was there, or was at his school. This surprised Jadon, who explained that his nurse was at his school every day. Now it was Jayla's turn to be surprised. Why didn't she have a nurse in her school every day? Jadon told Jayla that his school nurse was one of his favorite people at his school. The only people he liked more than the school nurse was his school social worker, who helped him out when he was sad. Jayla had never heard of a school social worker. She often felt sad and wondered why the school didn't have a social worker to help her out when she needed to talk to someone. Before Jadon could continue his story, Jayla heard her mama call her name and tell her it was time to go back to Chicago. The next day, Jayla marched up to her teacher, Ms. Hernandez, and demanded, "Why don't we have librarians and a nurse every day and a social worker to talk to when we need help?" Jayla's teacher stared at her for a moment and then answered calmly, "Well, the mayor says we don't have the money for those things." Jayla thought for a moment, "But I see things being built all over the city. Don't those cost money?" "Well, Jayla, those were paid for with money from tips, and the mayor gets to decide how that money is spent." Jayla decided that she would go find the person in charge of those tips, the mayor, and ask them if they could spend that money on things for schools instead. After a bit of walking, Jayla came across an important-looking woman and wondered if she was the mayor. "Are you my mayor?" she asked. "My name is Jayla, and I'm looking for tip money so that schools in Chicago can have librarians and libraries and social workers and nurses every day." "I'm not your mayor," the important-looking woman answered. "My name is Penny Pritzker. I have 5.2 million tip dollars, but the mayor gave me that money to build a Hyatt hotel. money isn't for schools. Chicago is broke. We have no money for schools. After walking a little bit further, Jayla came across a second very important looking woman. Are you my mayor, she asked. My name is Jayla, and I'm looking for TIF money so that schools in Chicago can have librarians and libraries and social workers and nurses every day. I am not your mayor, the second important looking woman answered. My name is Marilyn Gardner. I have 55 million TIF dollars, but the mayor gave me that money to renovate Navy Pier. TIF money isn't for schools. Chicago is broke. We have no money for schools. After walking a little bit further still, Jayla came across two very important looking men. Are either of you the mayor, she asked. My name is Jayla, and I'm looking for TIF money so that schools in Chicago can have librarians and libraries and social workers and nurses every day. I'm not the mayor, the first man answered. My name is Kurt R. Bailey. The mayor gave me $1 billion TIF dollars to build a luxury apartment complex called the 78. I'm not the mayor either, the second man answered. My name is Andy Glore. The mayor gave me $1.3 billion TIF dollars to build a different luxury apartment complex called Lincoln Yards. TIF money isn't for schools. Chicago is broke. We have no money for schools. Jayla sat down and began to cry. Then, a kind-looking man came up and asked her what was the matter. Jayla explained everything that had happened to the man before asking, I don't suppose you are my mayor. I'm not your mayor, said the kind-looking man. My name is Ben Jarofsky, and I'm a journalist who has spent quite a long time learning and writing about TIFs. I've seen mayors give TIF money to all kinds of things, Coca-Cola, Sara Lee, Quaker Oats, and Miller Beer, Kmart and Target and Home Depot, even Wrigley Field and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I don't understand why everyone always says that Chicago is broke and we have no money for schools, when it seems like we always have TIF money for all kinds of other things. But I know where you can find the mayor, City Hall. I'll show you where it is, and maybe you can convince the mayor to give the TIF money to schools. When Jayla and the journalist arrived at City Hall, she saw a very important looking woman. Are you my mayor? Jayla asked. My name is Jayla, and I'm looking for TIF money so that schools in Chicago can have librarians and nurses and social workers and nurses every day. Everybody tells me that Chicago is broke and has no money for schools, but it seems like we have TIF money for all kinds of other things. I am your mayor, the important looking woman said. What you say makes a lot of sense. People like to say that Chicago is broke. We've just been spending a lot of our money on things that wealthy people want, so there hasn't been much left over for schools. But starting today, I will spend that TIF money on schools so that every school can have a library, and a librarian, and a social worker, and a nurse. And if there's no money left over for millionaires and billionaires, I guess they'll just have to figure out how to manage on their own. Jayla smiled. For the first time since visiting her cousin Jaden and learning about TIFs, she felt very, very important. Yay.